Hi everyone, and welcome to Talking Cars with Consumer Reports. I'm Tom Muchler.
I'm John Lincove.
I'm Jake Fisher.
I'm Gabe Shenhar.
We have a new number 2 here at the track. A car has moved up into the 2nd place in our rankings. Don't worry, the Tesla, it's still first, so no Twitter battles with Elon Musk. Everything is fine.
Merkel.
Exactly. But Gabe, what moved up?
Well, that Mercedes E250, it's a diesel E-Class with a 4-cylinder and all-wheel drive. I mean, that car just makes an airtight case for a car that just hits everything right. It doesn't put a foot wrong. It's fun, it's agile, it rides supremely comfortably, it has a great interior, great seats, even the controls aren't that complicated, it's quiet, it feels solid, it feels settled, and it gets 30 miles per gallon, and it's got all-wheel drive. I mean, there's nothing to say about this car that's not just awesome.
Other than that, it sucks. Well, I mean, there's 63,000 reasons why. You know, I mean,
well, yeah, I mean, it's not cheap, but I mean, compare that to just about any car with that kind of equipment in this class, and I mean, you don't get away with less than that.
Yeah, I guess not. Jake, what do you think?
Well, I mean, the E-Class has always been a favorite of ours, right? It's one of these cars that it drives nice, it rides nice, it's got room inside, all those things. And with the addition of the 4-cylinder diesel, and that's kind of the big deal here, because diesels, right? Diesels are great, they're very fuel efficient, they're all that good. The problem is like, the diesels came in phases, because the German manufacturers came out with these big old V6 diesels with tons of power, tons of performance, and not that great fuel economy. But I think people are really looking for that fuel economy. So for a long time, people are talking about, well, are diesels successful? Do a lot of people get diesels? Well, the problem is there was only really one diesel that really made sense for fuel efficiency in the market, and that was Volkswagen Audi, the 4-cylinder. Everyone else had these giant, expensive, powerful diesels. Well, finally now we're getting smaller diesels, and wow, what a package. Really performs, gets the torque, it drives nice, and just 30 miles per gallon. I mean, that's a compact car fuel economy for a car that performs, it's quiet and comfy.
Yeah, what do you think?
So two surprising things. First of all, that Gabe likes the diesel and isn't calling it like a dirty car.
A tractor,
a tractor for smelly people or something like that. But really
a tractor with an umbrella.
There we are. So you don't sweat as much. The big thing is that this is really one of the first cars in the US that I can remember that's sort of like the European buying, where you have the big nameplate and the large heart, but it's the small engine. You can get it in Europe, you get an A8 with a small engine and an S-Class with a small engine.
Yep.
So here, if
this
you
is 2.1 liter engine.
It's a 2.1 liter 4-cylinder. If you look at it purely on those types of numbers and the whole like, I'm spending 63 grand and I got to get a V8, well, you're going to be disappointed. But if you look at it really for what it does and ignore the stigma that it's a 4-cylinder, it's great. It's a great car. I wasn't really impressed with the looks on it at first, but the car really grew on me. I took it on a long trip.
It's a conservative looking car.
It is a little high in the wheel wells.
But you can see out of it. And, people fit well in the back seat.
Again, took it on a long trip. The family, luggage, super comfortable, great legs. Don't even worry about filling that car up. I've driven a couple diesels within the last year on some trips. Awesome. If you could get diesel everywhere, and if I was not too worried about maybe my wife putting gas in the diesel or having trouble finding it, I would really push for a diesel in my family.
You know, one thing, doubting Thomas needs to argue. You know, it's just
in your name.
Exactly, it's just the way I'm wired.
No, we love arguments.
There you go. And actually, this leads back to Jake's point that he made on the last show about the F-150. That car, this Mercedes gets 30 miles per gallon, and that's great. And I really like this Mercedes. I enjoy it very much. But that car weighs 4,300 pounds. I can get same size sedan, gas engine. I can get a Honda Accord or a Mazda 6 that weighs 1,000 pounds less that gets the same fuel economy as this. What I'd really like to see is Mercedes spending some of that 63 grand, maybe getting some of the weight out. That plus a diesel, I mean, diesels weigh more, so you're kind of working back and forth. I mean, I think that would be very impressive.
Would it be as quiet? Would the seats be as throne-like? Would it have the same supple ride? A Mazda 6 and the E-Class definitely are two different monsters in that approach to driver comfort and comfort just of everyone in the vehicle. So
it actually gets into a real interesting thing, because we talk about a lot of the domestic compacts, for instance, right? I mean, you get the Dart, you get the Chevy Cruze.
Focus.
These are vehicles that we do talk about. The fuel economy really isn't there, even though they're put in the the small displacement turbos and all those. But because they're porky cars, they're heavy, but they're quiet. And that's something you don't get with the competition that does get the 32 miles per gallon. I mean, you get into Mazda 3 or you get into some of these cars and there's a lot of noise.
No one says a Honda Fit Sport manual is going to be a quiet car. That they're going to say gets great mileage.
It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, well, but just to get back to one thing you talked about, the whole Europeanification. I think I said a bad word there, sorry. But the thing is, the small 4-cylinder diesels, two things missing though, because we are auto journalists.
Oh, here it is.
If it was a wagon and a stick
there
shift,
you go.
it would be awesome.
Here's the thing.
None of us would buy it because that's the.
I would buy it. Oh,
Diesel
I would force my wife to buy one.
Well, I think that's sort of like you can't occupy the same space with you and your ulterior ego because like it's too practical.
No, that is too rational of a car. Yeah.
Cool though.
Too rational, not sexy enough.
That would be. Yeah, exactly.
Or CTS V wagon too, either one. But
plenty sexy there. The car that this bumped out of its second spot was the Chevy Impala. And actually, I'm using this awkward, clunky segue to get us to a question that someone asked about the show where we picked our favorites. I was surprised the Chevy Impala wasn't mentioned as one of our favorites of last year. Gabe, John, I blame you. I blame you guys for why didn't either of you pick the Impala?
Well, just because a car is so well rounded and scores so high, it doesn't mean that it necessarily has
Tickles your
the
fancy.
appeal and the emotional factor that will draw you in. So, I mean, it may be on someone's favorite list, just not on John's and mine.
Yeah, I mean, so I had two favorites that were the GL and the Fiesta ST. I also like the Mazda 6. I really like the Malibu LTZ that we had. It's like, just because it scores well doesn't mean it's gonna, ring up there. I mean, look, I got a family. I got a family of 4. We took a trip. I carried my bike and everything. Like GL does a lot of things that Impala isn't gonna do for me. I mean, and that's where it rang up for me there. And the Impala is not a little sporty car that you could tear around. That's what I loved about that. It's nothing like a knock against the Impala. But you know what? I mean, there's all kinds of things that tickle people's fancies, and it's not going to be exactly what you like.
No, I mean, it's a great car. I mean, I don't think we're going to jump out and say the Impala is a passionate car that, oh my God, I have to get one now, And actually, but the point is, cars that we love are not necessarily cars that score high.
Of course.
There's a disconnect there. And that leads us to the car that was in the same issue as this E-Class, the Cadillac CTS. When it was all said and done, that car didn't score that high. But, it's a car we all really loved driving.
Well, it's a car that really hits you on a very emotional level. I mean, first of all, the styling. I mean, it has an eye-catching styling. It has a gorgeous interior. It has handling that puts a smile on your face. Especially with the V-Sport.
Oh, that's awesome.
But some of it rubs on the regular car as well. So, I mean, the fact that it doesn't have a good enough rear seat and the controls suck, that's a barrier that's going to, and then the scoring system is going to keep us honest about it.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Can I drop a bombshell right here? That's what I tell everyone watching this. The highest rated vehicle isn't necessarily the one you want to buy.
Why you hurt my head so bad?
I know.
Well, I'm leaving.
But
we're done.
We're done.
Turn the lights off, guys.
But this is the thing. It's like we rate the vehicles and we talk about the vehicles that do most things well and do things overall. But everyone has different needs. Everyone has different things that float their boat, that excite them. The driving experience, the quietness, the room. People need different things. And clearly, just looking at the top-rated vehicle and saying that's the one for me, you got to go deeper than that. You got to figure out what's important to you, and we highlight the things that are important, good in different cars. Yeah, and that's why what we're talking about, we're just ourselves. We're people here. We're not we're not computers where we say, okay, well, overall the valid works, check.
John
check,
is
check.
Robot John.
Yeah, I mean,
John might be a robot. Someone reboot John.
You've got to understand that.
I did
Plug him back in.
I mean, it's important to understand that it's a really tough thing. I mean, when you're trying to cram a complex reality into a numerical thing, it's there's some nuances you're going to miss here and there.
That's right.
And that's why we're here.
That's it. Yep. That's why we do this podcast. That's why we write hundreds, thousands of words. That's why we do videos, so you can get more of the idea than is just given by just a 2-digit number. Now, for example, there are plenty of people in the world who need a 400+ horsepower rear drive domestic sedan. We needed one so bad that we bought the car behind me, the Chevrolet SS, which, oh, great. But we learned 2 interesting things about it. What's one of the things we learned?
So the car's built in Australia.
The land down under.
Land down under. Men at work hard on this car to put together the best possible.
They have their Vegemite sandwich.
Chevy badge.
Actually, it's 6.2 and full of muscle.
Nicely done.
Nicely
done. Oh, Gabe, that's good.
And it's shipped over here, but it's shipped over with chocks in the springs to keep the car from bouncing when it's tied down.
Because the car, GM explained it to us. All the cars with magnetic suspension, you turn off the electricity and you don't get any damping.
Right. So, and this is a problem that happened actually with the Pontiac G8 as well, and which I don't think had MRE, magnetic ride.
Some of them, I think some of them might have.
And they basically come with blocks in the springs, and a lot of cars do that when they're shipped overseas. But the dealer forgot to take those out. So when we picked the car up, it had kind of a stiff ride, really stiff. I
wonder how many actual owners of an SS are driving now with these blocks in.
Well, what's interesting is
no body roll.
We saw it when it came in, and it was one of these things like, hey, the guy checking the car said, hey, it had the blocks. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Well, dealers sometimes a weak link in the purchase, but it's been happening to a lot of owners. It's stuff on the forums and stuff. So it is something that people who have theirs or are picking theirs up, they should definitely make sure that the dealer takes those in. And they're big and they're red and they're obvious and they're in the front shock towers, springs, excuse me. So yeah, that's one thing.
The other thing we learned is that the car comes only with summer tires.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of knew that, but learning it on a snowy day when Jeff Bartlett picked up the car was an added,
one of our
it was a hands-on experience.
But we've had actually some days where it hasn't been snowing. How is the car to drive?
Oh, the car is fantastic. I mean, it's fun. It's taut and agile and powerful, and it sounds good. And yet, it doesn't beat you up, you know what? I mean, for me, when I drove this car that morning, it made my day. No matter how bad the day was going to go, it was already a good day.
I saw you careen into the parking lot.
Oh, it was...
Gabe's here.
And you know what?
What?
For me personally, I'd take it over a Corvette. Because you're buying a Corvette...
What kind of enthusiast are you? What kind of...
You may buy a Corvette for the wrong reasons. And...
Because my hair is thinning, because I want to pick up...
But this car...
That's the right reason.
This car, you're not going to buy this car.
It's a reason.
You're not buying this car for the wrong reason.
It's a reason that Consumer Reports doesn't test for, by the way.
True.
I mean, you're not buying this car for the wrong reasons. You're buying this car because you know what you're doing, because you know what this car has, and you really don't want to boast anything else. It's the perfect. I mean, the British call it the Q-ship.
What do you think, Jake?
I think it's pretty impressive for being kind of an old car, actually, because I like it too, but I like the G8, and we tested a G8, and there was different versions of that, and
this has been evolved.
It's evolved, but honestly, the G8 was a great car too. The G8 rode nice. The Pontiac G8 did all these things. What this does that the Pontiac G8 didn't do is actually, it's kind of finished for the American market.
Right.
So the G8 was kind of like, all right, just pull it out from the down of under, and
radio knobs are on the wrong side.
Right. I mean, it just
like kooky stuff.
It was a kooky
window controls in the middle, and
right.
Koala bear in the back seat.
Kangaroo
factory option.
Kangaroo guards.
But yeah, I mean, this has got like a normal interior and actually is functional and stuff like that, and it has, it drives like a sports car. It really does. So.
to me, thinking of comparing it to the Corvette, I agree with you. I'd rather have this to a Corvette. It's sort of like, if I had to fly a lot, if I could fly, and I had tons of money, would I want to fly cross country all the time in F-16 or a Cessna Citation business jet? I think I'd rather have the jet. It's just more comfortable, still fun. I need a raise, by the way, to get either one.
Mental note.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Want to also talk about two Subarus, two different Imprezas at very different ends of the intention. One of them is that we bought a Subaru XV Crosstrek hybrid.
That must be the most politically correct car in the world. It's a Subaru, and then add a hybrid to it. What more do you need?
I think Vermont just exploded.
You need fuel economy if you have a hybrid thing. And so I wasn't driving slow. I was kind of late to pick up my kid, and I went from here to home, which was like, I don't know, 35 miles, 19 miles per gallon. Woo! Hybrid, saving the world.
I think I can beat that in the Chevy SS.
I mean, I wasn't driving carefully or anything, but I was driving carefully.
Of course, certainly, yes.
I
Because carefully isn't the same as slow.
True.
Let's be
True. I wasn't hypermiling, but really, I mean, even just normal driving, we're just not getting very good fuel economy.
Yeah, I think we've been seeing like about 28 miles per gallon. With the regular XV, we saw 26 miles per gallon overall. And Subaru themselves, I mean, to their credit, they're admitting, I mean, this is
a
very, very modest kind of an 11% gain or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I had the car for, I think, 4 or 5 days at a time. A lot of highway driving. I got 29 out of it.
There's 2 Duracell AA's in there somewhere, and
yeah,
it's been cold. I mean, I had it some cold days, and just driving on the highway and seeing like in the low 20s. I think they hybridized the steering because there's really just no feel whatsoever.
They claim they changed the feel in this compared to the normal ones
by taking it all out.
It's supposed to have been better, I guess.
And just to say, I mean, sometimes people drive Subarus when it's cold. Just occasionally does happen. But sometimes
I understand they sell some of them where people like skiing and things
I've heard such things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Subaru, we don't go to these press events, but they debuted that car by driving it
Iceland.
Iceland, that's right. They're driving through frozen rivers in Iceland, and they made a big thing that this is the only hybrid that you can do that with.
I heard the sauna and the vodka was good.
So was the car apparently at the end of the.
That's right. Yeah. With the more vodka, the more efficient the car gets. Yeah, it's not much of a hybrid. You can maybe creep it up to 20 miles an hour if you're extremely light.
Very ginger on the gas pedal. Yeah.
I mean, it's starting to get pretty expensive. One thing they did do that was nice was they added more sound deadening because the car was noisy as all hell before. And now, I had eardrums left after a highway trip, so. Not much of a hybrid. On the other end of things, we have 2 Subaru WRX press cars here.
The WRX, one of them is a manual, the other is got the CVT.
A CVT seems wrong in that car. It's like, I go for a steak dinner, it's so tender you don't need a knife. That's wrong. No, you should have to work at it a bit.
Yeah, I haven't driven it yet.
Any of them?
Any of them, yeah. So.
John's driven both of them, so we'll talk with John.
On the track, on the street. It's growing up, but it's not as grown up as the last generation. What happens is they introduced the WRX to the country in 2002, even though it's been sold in Europe and JDM market before.
Forever and ever.
Right, and the first one was raw. Who cares that it had no safety gear? Who cares that you couldn't fit a human in the back seat? Like, it had 227 horsepower, and it just went, and we all loved it.
Well, it was forbidden fruit. It was the rally car you couldn't get here.
Right, and then the next generation got like soft and heavy, and they kind of had to rejigger it after a year. And this one's in between, where it makes a little more horsepower. It's like 268 now. It was 263 before last generation. It's got the 6-speed manual finally. They were doing with a 5-speed for years. It's built on the bigger Impreza platform. It's a little roomier. It's still kind of noisy. Ours have snow tires because it is winter, because
Subaru doesn't want us to wreck their press cars.
Well, it comes only with summer tires, so they don't want us to damage them. But we did have a note that said we could shred them, so we can drive it on the track.
No one told me this.
With snow tires, you have to email the right people.
Oh.
It understeers with snow tires. It doesn't have the best grip. It's noisy, noisier than the regular Impreza certainly. You feel every imperfection in the road, but it's not harsh. But you know, the jury's still out, you know, with the CVT. I mean, you could keep your foot down and just shift using the paddles, and it has Sport Sharp and Sport Informative, and
I think it's Sport Intelligent.
Intelligent.
It's supposed to mimic an 8-speed automatic.
It'll mimic an 8-speed automatic in the Sport Sharp mode. It'll be a 6-speed automatic in regular mode. You know, yeah, you could shift with your foot to the floor and stuff, but you know, it is still a CVT. With summer, the jury's still out until it's driven in nice weather with summer tires and how it really handles. Because they changed the toe. They have you know, the CVT version has more power to the rear under normal circumstances than the regular car, which is 50/50. Again, jury's out.
It'll be an interesting showdown, WRX against the GTI.
Yep.
That will be a good one.
Yeah.
That'll be good.
Couple of months.
Good. Yeah. I want to get to some questions because we've built up a backlog of them. From the Supra Star, which is a very clever pun. Good for you. Remember when the Lexus GX
Don't
throttle...
mock the viewers, please.
You take the FUD out. Remember when the Lexus GS throttle lift oversteered and you guys said it was unsafe to buy? Yet the GL locks up the tires all by itself in emergency avoidance testing, and it makes it onto your favorite list. No hypocrisy here at all, folks.
Well, absolutely not.
Not a problem.
Gabe, why are you so bad?
It's a different kind of a problem. I mean, when you have a sudden oversteer situation, there is more potential for you know, right, in the case of the Lexus GX, then there's more of a potential for things going wrong. I mean, you hit a curb,
As in rolling it over.
Might be a rollover.
Right.
If you're understeering like the Mercedes GL does, which is it just going straight, plowing straight ahead, I don't think there's a danger you're gonna fall into the Grand Canyon or something, you know. So.
Oh my God, it's the Grand Canyon.
For those of you at home, don't drive either one of these SUVs at the Grand Canyon at the ledge. I just want to put this out there.
That's good. That's
what about
good.
that glass thing that goes around?
That's good info.
That's
Be drifting it?
That's fine. But yeah, like exactly like Gabe says, you know, if I want to have my pick, if I want to be understeering an SUV or completely sideways hopping as I hit that curve or whatever,
at 70 miles, at 70 miles an hour too, when you've overcooked it into an off ramp. That's good times to find out bad things.
And we're always struggling with using the words, you know, oversteer and understeer, and a lot of people know what those mean. But I mean, it doesn't even matter if you're talking an SUV or whatnot. If we're talking about emergency handling, cars can do either one. Either they could plow, which isn't good, or they could oversteer, which is really not good. So one's a little worse than the other.
Yeah. The other thing that's worth mentioning is that, you know, John had mentioned, as he said earlier, as it's mostly John's fault. John mentioned earlier that the GL is a very nice car. The GL is a much nicer car than the Lexus GX. You know, at the limit, emergency handling aside,
unless you want to climb rocks and do serious off-roading, where the GX is.
Which about 4 people want to do.
But the point is, when you're talking about the picks, I mean, you're not talking about my experience in the emergency handling when this happened. You're talking about as it was driving day to day, and I think we'll all agree that that big Mercedes-Benz is a really nice driving vehicle. It would be really nice if they kind of worked out the stability control. That would be great.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
But as a functional vehicle, it's very impressive.
Okay, next question. I hope we got to this guy before anything bad happened. And you'll understand why.
Is he a GL?
Don't do it. Don't jump.
More winter driving question. From Taylor Brandley. With all this winter driving, my father and I are in a disagreement. Is pumping your brakes necessary when driving in the snow? My father is certain that you must pump when in the snow, but I have always read that as long as you have ABS, pumping is worse. Who's correct? John, who's correct?
The younger generation.
Yeah, I mean, there's no need to pump with ABS. ABS isn't going to shorten necessarily your stopping distance, but the old style was if you locked it, you had snow building up in front, which would help you stop. Don't pump the brakes. Don't engage and disengage the brakes, because ABS is engaging and disengaging the brakes, which is basically what pumping does. But it's doing it a lot faster than you could do it, and with much more control.
Exactly.
So that's the short
answer. But that's it. Your brakes are being pumped for you when you have ABS, and not only they're doing it faster, but they can do individual wheels, which you can't because you don't have 4 pedals. So let us do its thing.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, if you, something we've learned over the years through driver training is that a lot of people are hesitant to stomp on that pedal. If you have to stop that car, stomp on the pedal. Send it through the floorboard.
Here's the thing.
Let the car do what it's going to do.
The one thing to think about is that ABS will pulse the pedal. That doesn't mean that there's a problem and you should lift off. That's probably the key thing that a lot of younger drivers, and even older drivers who grew up with not having assist like that, don't understand. The pedal pushes back, that means the ABS is engaging, it's doing its thing.
It's okay.
Ride it out until you stop.
Could I preempt about 1,000 YouTube comments right now?
Oh, goodness.
Can I do this? Because someone will say that so-and-so professional
Probably
driver
Supra
can stop better using threshold braking than they can with ABS. And this is probably going to be true on some vehicle. But the truth is that in an emergency situation, 99% out of 10, even in the most seasoned drivers, they don't get that threshold braking just perfect, slamming them on. That's going to do better.
I've never seen a race car driver crash. They all threshold brake right to the turn and then they hit the apex. Never see crashes.
No, it's never happened, actually.
Never.
It's incredible.
It's amazing.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, on that. If you want to ask John about race car drivers, another question is which we've seen more and more is how do we connect to you on Twitter? Each of us we're now on Twitter. Our addresses are given across the bottom of the screen.
About here.
Which, yes, about there, which we will point to, which we'll put in. Feel free to get to us on Twitter. Several people have asked, will you test the Mazda 6 diesel?
We will when it goes on sale eventually. It's been delayed twice. So I think it might be coming later this spring.
I'm kind of concerned about that car.
Why is that?
Because while I think it's really great to have a midsize sedan with a diesel,
Remember, 4-cylinder diesel for the win.
absolutely, and I want my stick shift wagon.
And it will be light.
But
But quiet.
I think what Mazda has done is they made the Skyactiv 4-cylinder
Too good.
too good.
Yeah. I mean,
Because
the delta fuel economy
Right.
between the regular 6 and the diesel is going to be, I don't know, maybe 2-3 miles per gallon.
I'm
So,
gonna
I mean,
bet
it's a
6.
good problem to have, but does it make you go out and buy the diesel to save the fuel?
And pay more for diesel.
And get greasy.
Yeah, the greasy diesel pumps, and
Right.
they never have the card swipe. And,
Yep.
Yep. From Baby Chucho.
Stop making fun of the viewers.
That's
Not
what they
helping
wrote.
us.
Great show. Tom, why are you so rude to John?
I've been wondering that myself.
It's my lack of facial and hair on the top. It's Tom hates me.
It's true.
Glad
It's
we covered
true.
that.
It's true. It's called acting. Yeah. Or
Jazz hands.
Now everyone understands.
But actually, you know what? The fact that we didn't have John, that probably caused this. From Rick Ollis, and this is from the Detroit show with Gabe and whatever your name is, Jake. Wow, these guys have zero chemistry.
Well,
I bet if we had John.
I am the editorial type, so science wasn't
John
really.
is the catalyst that makes it.
Maybe it's the Detroit environment that sucked out the chemistry.
That
perhaps.
show's like a death march. I mean,
Yeah.
auto shows are like.
Let's just say, like, okay,
It's a
nothing
depressing
against
city.
the viewer. It's great to have someone watching, many people, but you know,
We have one viewer.
come into the show, get in late, get up early, commute in, do the whole show. Well, it's tiring. You know, you're not on your game. Whereas it's like, oh, 10:30 in the morning, we all sit, you know, comfortable. You know, things happen.
I think we were on a game. I think we were just kind of sick of each other. I think that was pretty much it. It's like,
It's traveling in the same.
these guys again.
Aren't you gone already?
I know. We drove the Mitsubishi Mirage all the way together
Yeah.
from
Slept in the back.
Connecticut. It was terrible.
That twin bed.
You know, the other thing is,
Times are rough.
I think so many people, they compare any sort of car show to Top Gear UK. And those guys have been doing it for 120 years. They're all millionaires. They're
If we were millionaires, we'd.
That's what
first of all, I'd have a Cessna Citation.
That would take care of the
And
chemistry.
We could afford acting lessons if we had that much money. Yeah, look back at the Jeremy Clarkson in, I think, F40 episode. There was no chemistry between him and the cameraman, let alone between the three of them. Like, things evolve over time.
Yeah, exactly. Some more, a couple people have noticed that we tend to talk about the fancy cars a lot. Here are two things. From R. Morrow Shelton. I wish Consumer Reports would review a car that I could buy, not some overpriced, overdone, over-the-top, unaffordable car. There's a reason I don't use CR anymore. They are out of touch with what I can buy. I'd rather have a house than a Euro sports car. Also, from Max Power, and I get the Simpsons reference, which is fabulous. Nice car.
Mr. Plow.
Mr. Plow, that's my... I'll stop singing. I'll stop singing. Nice car list. What about for real CR readers who can't afford $70,000 cars like the Audi A7? Great car, granted. How's the Chevy Malibu?
I love the LTZ. The regular one, it's a little cramped. Some of the flaws come out with it.
Well,
But I'll tell you what, that
putting a turbo in it doesn't make it less cramped.
But you know what?
I might be
well,
rude.
like,
I'm sorry.
You with the
John.
fancy LTZ, pinky out.
Yeah, well, that's fine. But you know
Mr.
what? Here's a version
$32,000
of $32,000 Malibu is about $4,000 over the price of the average car sold in the United States.
Yeah,
I mean, seriously, the
it's-
Chevy Malibu is one underrated car.
Yeah, agreed.
Because it gets all the flack from the fan magazines because it's not sporty. But you know what? There are people that this is a perfect car for them because it rides. It's the most comfortable riding car in that class, in the mid-size class. The rear seat is not great, and
So don't sit
there
there.
are many people that will never sit in will never occupy the rear seat there.
It rides great. It's quiet.
quiet.
The controls are super simple.
Right.
And also, it's at the mercy of what they're testing. You know, pick up the episode where we had the Accord here. You know, pick up the episode where we've been doing, Mazda 3s are going to be coming up and such. You know, you hit at a certain time, you watch one episode. Okay, that's what it is there, and it's an end of year. We happen to test a number of these. We have plenty of cars out there that are totally below the average car sale price. Plenty of small economy cars, plenty of mid-sized family sedans, but they don't always make the nice eye candy sitting behind here.
Jake?
Yep, we do small cars too.
We got the
We do
Mirage.
mid-size
We got the
cars.
Mirage in there.
We got the Mirage in
A whole
there.
episode just about the Mirage.
It's coming.
No readers left. One more thing on that note, and then I'll get to the final question. 3 out of the 4 here picked the Fiesta ST as one of their favorite cars. That thing is $22,000, and actually I've seen incentives that are getting it under 20. So I mean, there's good stuff out there for not much money.
Don't use facts to override the logic.
Facts just cause trouble. Last question I want to answer from Sisyphus. Is the Fiesta ST more fun to drive than the Subaru BRZ? Jake?
Ooh, that's rough. Depends on what the situation is.
Right.
Out on a track where you could really have some fun, I mean, there's nothing like throwing the BRZ FRS sideways. I mean, that is such the, back to the 86 Hachiroko. I mean, the thing just is so playful. You could just make it do anything and just makes everyone feel like, they're ready for RC Rally
Drifting,
Challenge.
yeah.
It's just so much fun. In everyday driving, I don't know. The ST is a blast. It really is. I mean, it's got a great little cockpit, and it's got good power, and it's tight steering. Ooh.
Gabe, I'm guessing where you are on this one.
Well, that's exactly true. I mean, if you don't have a racetrack in your backyard and you can't take advantage of the rear-wheel drive antics that you can do with a BRZ or an FRS, the Fiesta ST is more fun for most people in most situations.
Jonathan?
A lot of factors. Look, you can ride where you live. Do you want rear-wheel drive? Do you want front-wheel drive? Do you carry people, kids, stuff?
Well, neither of them carry people.
Well, now you could put kids in the back seat at least of the easily in the back seat of the Fiesta, not like the FRS unless you're Jake's kids.
Crisscross applesauce. They fit there.
I could see like young single, or just, having the BRZ, and it's a great car all around, fun, especially if you do track stuff. If you're not living though your life at a quarter mile at a time, the Subaru Fiesta ST just makes a hell of a lot more sense as an overall package.
That's fair.
I think the FRS BRZ will be more successful though in aftermarket communities, just the way the car looks though. I mean, it just looks the part.
Maybe, there's a market that's grown up around the Focus at the Fiesta, but you have more flexibility
We'll
with the
see
rear
what
drive platform.
the racetracks are filled with in about 5-10 years.
We'll see what the JDM market ships over.
Yeah,
and that's a huge market of available parts. And
Yeah, I guess you can argue that the rear drive Scion and Subaru, which are underpowered to begin with, they're going to have a bigger aftermarket possibility.
Yeah, a lot more parts coming from overseas versus the domestic product. So yeah, you're right. There's going to be probably more modifications down the road for those.
So that's going to wrap things up for now. If everything goes according to plan, the next podcast, we're going to talk about our test results for the Jeep Cherokee and the Mazda 3. Lots of people have been asking about them, so we want to bring that info to you. As always, thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.